Hello and welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 43. This episode is pre-recorded, and will be released on YouTube, iTunes, and other podcast apps. Please like, subscribe, and comment however you prefer to enjoy the show. That really helps. Thank you. Hey, the last two episodes did really good. Yeah, we got like 50 new subscribers, which for us, that's like a 50% increase.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's like really good. Also, both episodes got a pretty good bit of views compared to our previous episodes. So I am really appreciative of all. I hope that people stick around and watch more episodes, and we keep doing something right. We did something right there. Yeah. There's not always Linus drama, though. You know, that's the thing.
No, that was a booster. But, I mean, hey, if it gets more people to see us, you know, that's the thing that matters.
Yeah, we need more drama in the tech industry. Well, there's plenty. There's plenty there, but we just don't always. It's not usually our vibe to talk about.
Right, exactly.
You can send us an email at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me. I forgot we did get an email you sent me.
Yeah. Yep.
And I did read it, but I gotta admit I was reading it on my phone in the shower. So
yeah,
I didn't take any notes. I'm not prepared to talk about it this episode. We'll do it next week. You can join us on Discord, which that person was a member of our Discord, right?
Yes.
That was Dale, right? Yeah.
Yep, it was Dale.
So we'll talk about that next week. I think he was issuing us a challenge to try out another distro. So
yes,
definitely good. Challenges are always good show content, and there might be a Plasma 6 challenge coming up because of the Plasma 6 release date. We're also going to be talking about a few other Linux news items, some Half-Life. Could it be Half-Life 3? No, it's not. It's Half-Life 2. And I'll go over our Proxmox, new games we're playing, and I experimented with VR this week, and I was going to do a whole thing for the episode on Linux. I was going to do a whole thing where I was going to start the show wearing like the VR headset and, you know, pretend like I didn't have legs or something.
Recording in VR.
Yeah, we should do, if we ever do a VR episode, we should do we meet up in one of those spaces and do a VR.
I'll just get my crappy, like, you know, the old VR thing that like you put your phone in. It's just a head strap.
Yeah. Dude, I remember doing those for the first time, and it was, even that was like amazing. I had the one, there was like a Samsung one that your phone a Samsung phone could snap into.
Yeah.
I remember that works like really well, but I wonder if it was just because we hadn't experienced VR yet. You know what I mean?
That could be.
I don't know.
That definitely could be.
And there's like kits on like Thingiverse, and you can like make your own and then slide a phone into it.
Yeah. Before
we get into the news, we're going to do this article that just came out a few days ago. I thought it was interesting, and it was related to a topic that we talked about last week. We talked about the Steam market share and why you shouldn't care. This article is 5 reasons why Linux is good for gaming in 2023 and why you shouldn't care. I'm just kidding. It doesn't have the why you shouldn't care tagline, but it's why is Linux good for gaming in 2023? Let's go through these 5 items, and let's kind of give our experienced, our seasoned Linux gaming veteran opinion on it. So starting number 1, Linux supports more games than ever.
Okay. Starting off pretty strong.
Yeah. The majority of games are still released exclusively on Windows, but more popular titles have actual Linux ports that can run natively on most distros. And not to mention Proton. So this is very true.
Are they talking about Proton, or are they just saying native Linux games?
They go on to talk about, so Valve, they say in 2018.
Okay, yeah, they do.
Yeah, so they're talking about Proton down there.
Okay.
So this is definitely true. There are way more games compared to past, like present Linux and future Linux has way more games available than past Linux. That's true.
Yep.
To be fair, this article touches on the subject at the end, but the thing on all of these bullet points is, but compared to Windows, you know, like it's still it was still meant for Windows first, you know?
Right. Yes. I'm glad that the Steam Deck games, like that are being not designed for Steam Deck, but that are being I don't know, translated to Steam Deck. I don't know exactly what you call it with Proton, like being targeted for Steam Deck.
Yeah, definitely.
There's
a lot of things advertised now that like how well they work on Steam Deck. Yeah. Right. That was one of my predictions at one of our year-end prediction sessions, that games would actually start advertising that they're available on Proton. But like, that's starting to happen actually.
Yeah. And not only that, but games on Linux in general have improved because I don't know if it's because they're using Arch or what it is, but I feel like games that didn't work before, once they get that Steam Deck approved title, they work easier on any other Linux distro too. So like I kind of sort of was hoping that was going to happen, but I had a bad feeling that it was going to be like just Steam Deck specific, but it doesn't seem to be that way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a huge improvement. So I mean, I'm being a little cynical comparing it to Windows, but I'm trying to be realistic. Yeah. But the truth is of the games that were originally intended for Windows, the percentage of those games that we're now able to run like native or native on Linux that percentage is way higher than it used to be.
Yes.
So that's a really good thing. If Valve holds a steady market share with the Steam Deck and that stays a successful product, and I didn't put it in the show notes, but there was a recent article. I should go find that actually and put it in there. Maybe we'll pause and I'll go find it. But there's an article about people looking at the code for Steam OS and finding references to Sephiroth. They're saying that it's code that is paving the way for like a future Steam Valve device.
Oh, okay.
So there's going to be more Steam Decks, more Valve devices coming.
Oh
out.
yeah, they can't stop. Like yeah.
And as long as that does well, game companies are going to continue to design to support Proton, which in turn supports Linux. So it's only going to continue to get better and better. There could be a day where that percentage of games that doesn't work is so small that it's minuscule.
Right.
Number 2, plug and play support for mini controllers. We have a news item about that. It's gotten even better since this article was written.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because I mean, I haven't had an issue on Linux with that kind of stuff for a while for the controllers.
Yeah, my thing is everything works plug and play, but it's more rare to find the things that work Bluetooth.
Yes. Yeah. I will agree with that. Although I have a controller that it's like a generic, I think the name is GameSir or whatever, I don't know. Yeah. But it has an Android setting. It doesn't have a Windows setting. You have to use the dongle if you're on Windows, but the Android setting works with Linux. So I can attach it to my computer when if I switch to Linux. If I boot to Linux, it'll attach to the Bluetooth with my controller, but if I go to Windows, it will not attach to Bluetooth. Same computer.
Still using Bluetooth. Oh, wow. Pre-installed NVIDIA drivers on select distros. This is true.
Okay.
Pop OS.
Yes.
It's a few times you install, especially recently. Nabarro. We installed distro and it'll ask if you're using NVIDIA.
I think you can do that on Endeavor OS and Manjaro too. I think it's not pre-installed, I don't think, but you can select it easily.
Yeah, or a lot of times they'll have a special ISO for NVIDIA.
Yes, that too. Yep.
So that's true. And hey, that's something Windows does not have. Typically, you have to pray they find a close enough driver, and then you go download the NVIDIA driver. At least for NVIDIA, they've got that built in some distros.
Yeah.
Recent drivers have improved shader compilation on AMD GPUs. Yes, I've never had an AMD GPU, so I wouldn't know for myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either, but I don't know. I can't say yes or no to this one, but from what I've been hearing from the different news articles I've been reading and stuff, I feel like this is true.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The first line of this is kind of my of this article is my assumption has always been that while AMD is more stable, NVIDIA seems to have better performance if you can get everything working.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Tons of utilities and tools, and ain't that the truth? That is what Linux is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's gotten in the last 5 years, holy crap, there's been a ton more. I'm talking, it probably like quadrupled the amount of tools specifically GUI tools. Yeah, it's been crazy with that. I've used several of those tools. I can't remember what the one that we were using that you could see the frame rate and everything right on the screen as you're playing the game.
Oh yeah, something HUD.
Mango HUD. Mango
HUD.
Yeah, that one was really cool. That was kind of like Afterburner on Windows, but way better because it didn't actually hurt anything like your frame rate at all. It's so light.
Yeah. So the article goes on. Its final conclusion: is Linux better than Windows for gaming? With the recent updates to Proton, better support for NVIDIA, AMD, and decent utility tools, Linux is better than ever for gaming. Unfortunately, it's not good enough to beat Windows as far as gaming is concerned. Games that use unsupported anti-cheat software. Yes, that is
that is the Achilles heel.
Achilles heel. Yep. I was talking to a guy the other day leaving work. This guy, I did not picture. I asked. He told me he was going home to play his game, and he said his game. So I thought, I wonder what game he's playing. And just judging a book by its cover, I thought he was going to say Call of Duty or something, right? And he said he was going home to play Final Fantasy 14, and I was like, what? I was like, I did not expect you to play or say something I was actually interested in. I expected something a little more shallow. But yeah, he's going on to play Final Fantasy 14. I was like, whoa. But then he also said that he played the other MMO that's popular on Steam, or used to be popular on Steam. I can't think of the name right now, but I told him, I said, I can't play that because the anti-cheat is blocked on Linux, and all of my systems run Linux. So like I can't actually run that game. So that is still the big Achilles. You may also encounter issues when you run DirectX 12 games on lower end rigs. We wouldn't know over here on Crowbar Kernel Panic.
What's a low-end rig?
What is a low-end rig?
Sitting here with our ARC GPUs and random GPUs in the background just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah. Anytime I run into a wall on a game, I just pick this GPU off of my Bitcoin mining table and slap that thing in my case. What are you? Lower-end rigs. Windows, even the games that do run via compatibility layer like Proton and Wine will usually take a frame rate hit. That's true.
Yep.
I think it's I don't know. Maybe that wasn't interesting to go over. I just we kind of talked about that last week. So I guess it begs the question of, why are we Linux gamers?
Yeah. After spending 5 hours in front of the computer and then finally getting the game to work and then not playing it, I asked myself, why?
Why did I do this in the first place? Yeah, I think that's an interesting. Here's what I'll say: anybody out there that's a Linux gamer, write in and tell us why you are, or in a comment on this video, tell us why you're a Linux gamer. I just find a comfort level with Linux outside of gaming, and the games I play typically are not. I find that I have good luck with the games that I play. I don't know.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Like Baldur's Gate. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 all week, and I can't imagine that it runs any better on Windows. I mean, it's fine. I'm running it on Proton, and I'm even on Proton, and I'm using Wayland. I've been using Wayland like for the last several
Wayland
weeks.
has come a long way, because I have been too, but I think a lot of it has to do with the ARC GPU, because I've noticed since I switched to this ARC GPU, I like it. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's like, it's just smoother. It's like one of those things you can't, quantify, but it's just, there's something different. Something's changed.
The thing about, I think that on NVIDIA, I always ran X11. Anytime I would install something, I would have to switch, go to Gnome and use Gnome with X11.
Yep, something would block you from using Wayland.
Yeah, and recently I had an issue with, so I was playing Baldur's Gate 3, and that we have a news item about a Half-Life 2 RTX version like release that they're working on, and it made me want to go back and play Black Mesa, the Half-Life remake that they made in the Source 2 engine. And installing that game, I found that Black Mesa ran better in X versus Baldur's Gate. I had been playing for weeks on Wayland and just not even thinking about it. And so I logged out and switched to X11. And then whenever I logged back in, Black Mesa ran fine. But then switching back to Baldur's Gate started running crappy again. And I said, oh, it's because I switched. It actually ran better on Wayland.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I like that. I like yeah.
Yeah. Which kind of makes sense because Baldur's Gate 3 was a major title release. And it was one of the ones that like Proton was like, we want to work closely and make sure this works well on our system. Right. And the Steam Deck runs Wayland.
Right. Yeah.
So it makes sense that it would.
It does make sense.
I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't want our show is called Crowbar Kernel Panic. Of course, that's a reference to Half-Life. And I don't want the show to just be like a Valve like apologist forever. If they ever do anything that we think
if they ever screw up, I'm really going to be even more critical of them.
They're the saviors of Linux gaming
right now,
for sure. Yeah,
100%.
Like I hate every episode we find something good to say about them, but I mean, it really is like
but there is always something good to say about them. Like
they're even making Wayland better, man.
Literally, the only thing bad I can say about them at all is that they have the same kind of policy that Apple has with the 30% that they take off the top. And
oh, really?
Like
okay.
That kind of bothers me because, like, especially like when I get cheaper games.
Is it really 30%?
That's as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure it's 30% because I remember thinking, wow, that's the same policy as Apple has on their App Store.
Oh, wow.
But I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm correct though.
I'm not going to look it up. I believe you. And for the sake of this conversation, well, I believe you.
Yeah. I just every time I buy a cheap game, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm kind of like cheating out the developer a little bit, but. Yeah.
But I'll say this. So maybe this goes back to why we're Linux gamers. It's not just that Valve is improving Wayland, but it's also the opposite. Like,
right.
They all improve each other. It's a community of development. And I think that's what I like about it so much. And that's why I root for it to succeed. And I think that I'm a Linux gamer over a Windows gamer because for me, I'm interested in gaming. I have a PlayStation 5 and I don't give a crap what Sony does. Like, I'm not trying to like improve the community around the PlayStation. You know what I mean? But when it comes to Linux, it's like, I want to see it succeed. I want to see it do better and I want to see articles like this, like talk about how well it's doing because it's something that was kind of built like, you know, I'm not contributing to it because I'm not smart enough, but like, it's like we built this thing together. Like it wasn't just some corporate exec, you know, like asked a bunch of lackeys to go make the operating system better. And I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean because it's like, the Linux community bickers and fights, but when like a big, you know, conglomerate comes against Linux, they all join up and just attack. Yeah. even if they're at odds at the moment.
So I think I think that hits the philosophy is that it's not Valve didn't improve Wayland. Wayland improved Proton. Proton improved Wayland. Like it's just constant.
It's just it feeds back into itself.
Yeah. Let's get into some news items. We need to get through these news items. We do have kind of some important news to go through. So
yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, let's
other than one.
Which one are you worried about? Which one? Let's do that one
Gnome.
First. The bad news first.
The Gnome 45 breaks all extensions. Oh man, when I heard this, dude, I was like, man, I'm kind of glad I went to KDE.
Oh, are you switched to KDE?
I'm pretty much fully switched, dude. Like it's pretty nice now. I'm talking the last time I used it for real, it was probably like 5 years ago. So it's been a while.
I didn't know about that. I was going to suggest that we do a KDE challenge with the new version of Plasma coming up, but you're already doing the challenge. Oh my gosh.
Well, not Plasma 6 though. I'm still on 5.
Yeah.
But it's dude, it's good.
Well, let's talk about we got Plasma coming up after this. So
yeah.
Gnome 45 breaks all extensions.
Dun dun dun.
So if you are a Gnome extension maintainer out there, what are you doing to listen to this podcast? We're just a couple idiots. You need to listen to way smarter people than us. But if you are if you are a Gnome extension developer, you're probably already aware of this and you're probably already working on the solution. But Gnome 45, they are changing the way they do JavaScript imports. and they're moving to a more modern module system. The only thing I could liken it to is Ansible modules. And so I'm imagining that this is like some sort of more modern, API for adopting extensions into the GNOME environment.
It must be pretty extensive if it's literally just going to break everything, like if you don't have it properly ported over. So
not only is it going to break everything if you don't have it properly ported over, but if you want to support past versions of GNOME, you have to maintain in a pre-45 and post-45.
Oh, so you got to have two different development releases. Oh, man.
And
that's crazy.
I understand. While I don't understand the technical depth of what's happening, I understand sort of the issue at hand here. Like there is a code issue where you'll get an error. You'll get a syntax error if they don't have the proper import selected or proper module, and so they have to manually change that. All of the developers are going to have to maintain their version of their extension and make sure that they're using this new syntax. Otherwise, they'll get the error. I don't know. I can see how it's a pain in the butt. Yeah. But at the same time, it's progress, baby. I don't know.
Yep. You got to move forward with software. Yeah, you can't stay still. Unfortunately, it's a good thing, but it's just going to take a while for people to get used to it. And that's the whole thing. That transition period is always a problem. Yeah. And there's going to be people who are going to leave GNOME now and be like, oh, this is ridiculous. This is going to be the big purge, whatever, yada, yada. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, but usually that's what happens. And then they'll come back. Once things are fixed or they get fed up with whatever else they tried.
In this article, I think they kind of give some instructions a little bit. Yeah, down here they give some examples of syntax changes.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like such a dramatic thing that as long as you have an active maintainer, I think they'll be able to go in and do this.
That's the thing. You got to have an active maintainer. And there's going to be people who use this extension that hasn't been updated since who knows when. And they're like, oh, I gotta have this extension. I gotta have it. And then of course it's gonna break and they're just gonna be like, oh well.
So it's only gonna affect you if you're on GNOME 45. So yeah, if you're the type of person where you're not updating your extensions, you're probably also not updating your system.
This is true.
To even
That's
get
true.
GNOME 45.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
Using Arch or something bleeding edge, you're probably not going to touch 45 until these things have all been sorted out. So there'll be such a lag there for most people that I don't think it'll be an issue to the user, but it's probably a pain in the butt for these developers to maintain a past version and a future version. And for how long? How long do they do that? How long do they support GNOME 44?
Yeah, exactly.
or whatever.
Well, for as long as Ubuntu, what was that be? 2004 is around, I guess.
Yeah.
That's literally what I would do. I would be a hard cutoff, like once Ubuntu 2004 is done, that's it. That's what I would say. But
what this reminds me of is add-ons for World of Warcraft. And when there's a new version of the game that comes out, it breaks all the add-ons. And the developers go and fix them.
Well, that's the same thing with RPG Maker. Like if you have plugins and they update RPG Maker, all your plugins break. So you're sitting there waiting for the plugin managers to, and that's even worse because some plugins will work. Like there are old plugins and they'll work and then they'll change one specific thing that plugin dealt with and then it will break. So that maintainer might not be there anymore. Yeah. So it happens all the time with different software, but the thing, so recently I've played on a bunch of private servers for World of Warcraft and they've all been old clients. And so you have to go and try to find add-ons, but for like really old versions. Okay, yeah.
And so I don't know. This reminds me of that. And I feel like there's going to be a day where it's like I just need GNOME 30 for some reason.
I want that nostalgia back.
Yeah. I got to go back and find all these old extensions, pre-45 extensions. Yeah, I don't know. Not doom and gloom. It's progress, people. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
So,
or just come with me to KDE.
That's a segue because our next item is GNOME Plasma. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's weird. KDE Plasma 6 has a release date. And they have some more September Plasma updates. The release date, February of 2024, which is 5 months away. If that seems like a long time, it's because they are doing a lot of refining and cleanup. It looks like they're going to do some code shrinkage by less duplication. Like they're refining their code in such a way that they're not having to duplicate a bunch of things. They can just make something in one area and use it over and over again.
Yeah, like modules, kinda.
Mm-hmm. And but the big news, the big thing, and the reason why I put this in the show notes in the first place is double click by default.
What?
Yep. So,
oh man,
there KDE is finally.
I don't have to change it anymore.
KDE is finally coming to the rest of the world and putting double click as the default, because that was always the weirdest, dude. KDE.
I want to know who the heck's idea that was.
Who decided for everybody that single click was.
It always gets me every time. Yeah. I will double click on a KDE on the desktop or whatever, and freaking 2 windows will pop up, and I'll be like, why? Oh yeah, that's right, because it doesn't make any sense.
Dude, it is so like that. Who decided that? I want to know why. And it's like they're like, that's like their theme, like if I want a KDE Plasma t-shirt that says like I
single click forever.
I single click. Yeah. I want to do a Plasma challenge whenever it comes out. So
Plasma 6 specifically.
Year. Yeah. I mean, I might try it before then, especially if my distro installs Gnome 45 and everything
breaks.
then I'll back out and try Plasma.
Guess I'll have to go 5. To KDE to get my KDE experience.
Yeah. I'm going to start installing Gnome and changing the default click to single click.
Oh, man. Yeah.
What if they just switch? That's the new default 45.
Just try to make a commit to Ubuntu for that.
That's I've always thought that was the weirdest thing.
Me too. I immediately changed it anytime I used KDE at all.
And it used to be, it's less so now, but it used to be that whenever you described KDE to somebody, you'd say, "Oh, do you want a more Windows-like experience?" Then install KDE, because it would have a more, they got like
it would look more like Windows.
Yeah, but guess what? Single click, like what the heck?
Functionality, not so much like Windows.
Yeah. So they list out a few other features. So custom ordering of KRunner search results. Printer KCM rewritten in QML, double click by default, baby. Tap to click. I'm guessing that's not like if you're on a tablet, tap to click, maybe.
Yeah.
Icons.
Oh, that's for that's for laptops for touchpads.
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that. So if you tap it on a touchpad, do I want it to single? I think on a touchpad, I think I do, right?
It depends on the touchpad. If it's really, really sensitive, I disable that. But if I don't, now that's just tap, like you don't click in the physical button. That's just tap your finger on the touchpad. Yeah. So I disable that if it's sensitive, and if it's not, I enable it, because sometimes it'll like triple click when I try to.
Icons throughout Plasma itself now exclusively come from the system-wide icon theme. That seems good. Seems like more reduction.
Yeah, seems like cohesiveness.
Yeah. Support for automatic bug reporting in Durkonki. That's another thing about KDE is everything has to start with a K or have a K.
But then you always have that random one that doesn't start with K, and why not?
Yeah. And improved reporting for reporting flow in general. That seems like a good thing.
Yeah.
Auto start KCM shows details about entries. I don't know what KCM is. You know what KCM
I don't know that either.
And then distros can now customize the first page in the Welcome Center.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
So that all sounds good. I'm willing to do a Plasma 6 challenge in February and to double click the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time.
So have you heard anything about this? The Ubuntu App Center has just landed on Ubuntu 23.10.
So I kind of knew about this, but I wasn't keeping up with it. I knew they were making a new App Center that was I think it's based on Flutter or something like that.
Yeah, right. It looks really nice. The big difference is that it actually is not supporting deb packages.
What? Why?
Yeah. It is only going to be Snap packages in the store. And
burn it with fire.
Right. And that's why I thought this was newsworthy to talk about, was only because of that. Otherwise, they get a fancy new app store that looks really nice, but yeah, they're not gonna make any kind of compatibility with flatpak, which makes sense.
That makes sense. I'm okay with that, only because that's true to them.
Yeah, and but they're also, even if it's in your repositories, like a Debian repository, it is not going to be in the App Store, which is
so you can still go to app. Obviously, you can still go to app to install it. Good. Well,
yeah.
You know what this tells me? This tells me that one day, when they're going to get rid of Debs altogether.
You know what's crazy is, I think we have to eat a little bit of crow here. I'm literally hitting this is hitting me right now. We gave a lot of criticism to Linux Mint for kind of being a little bit paranoid about the Ubuntu base.
Yeah, you're right.
And their support of Debian packages. I don't know. Maybe they're onto something. Are they onto something? I don't want to be sensational, but I don't know. This is
not a good sign. I will say that.
This is a check in that category, I think. This is a box check.
Because
in that column.
this is why I even say that, because it's the GUI installer for all your software. That is where 95% or more of your people are going to go for software. So guess what they're going to get? They're going to get a, no offense, crappy snap package. Now, I say crappy because GUI snap packages, in my opinion, are garbage. I've tried most recently, probably like 6 months ago or so.
I've even tell you the last snap I did.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I tried something. It was probably LibreOffice or one of those, and the theme was wrong. The window decorations were wrong. I couldn't save it to certain places in the file system. It was just it was just a nightmare. So I mean, they could have improved it by now, but I don't know.
I'm loath to linger on them for too long, given that development remains in flux. The big one is that at the time I write this, and this is omgubuntu.co.uk, at the time I write this, there is no support for finding/installing repo or deb software. Search for an app that is available as a deb in the repo, and it gives the example VLC, and you'll find no option to install it, only the snap builds. The good news is that this is likely only a temporary omission. I don't know if I agree with OMG Ubuntu on that. There's a code pull request pending for App Center, which sounds like it brings back the ability to install deb repo software.
I hope so.
So to me, what makes me disagree with OMG Ubuntu is that the original version of this application, the Flutter or whatever, it did let you choose which version you wanted, the Snap or the Debian.
Okay.
And so this is like an intentional omission in a way, you know?
Okay, so you're saying this exact application prior to this, in prior versions of Ubuntu, worked with...
Oh, no. It hasn't been in other versions of Ubuntu.
This is brand new. This one specific build. Okay,
but what
you're saying the
old
app
version that it's based on. The app right. It had that, and then they've taken that out. So, So yeah, it seems... I don't know. If it's a temporary omission, then I feel bad that we made a big deal about this and it was nothing. But it's just something. Well, I'll tell you what. We need to check. We need to watch for it to change and see if they update it by the next episode.
I feel though, regardless of if it changes or not, eventually Ubuntu's going to go this way in the long run.
They want.
When I say long
Snap,
run, I mean like
sure.
10 years, 15 years, if it's even around then, whatever, you know.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that the package manager paradigm is dated? Do you think it's still a good paradigm?
So I would say in the timeline, yes, it's dated. But in reality, I feel like it was something that was futuristic back in the day when it was new. And even now, it's something that Windows is going to. Like there has been different versions. Chocolatey is one of the things you can install in Windows to install packages through the command line. Now they have Winget, which is funny
Yep.
because the name is hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's their own package manager. So I feel like Linux in that manner was future forward thinking. Like that was how it should have always been, especially for admins and all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the old way. It feels archaic. This is another thing that harkens back to the first topic of the show of that. One of the reasons I like Linux is because when I use Windows and I'm like, oh, I need to install this application. So I got to go to some website and I got to download it. And then I got to install it. And during the installation, I got to make sure that I uncheck the boxes that say to also install this toolbar and, all this kind of stuff. And then finish the installation. And then I can launch it on my computer. That just feels so like after using
that
Linux for
feels
a long
archaic.
Time, that feels archaic. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I think that has been like, in a way, you could make the argument that has been one of the like most innovative things that Linux has done. Yep. And so why are they trying to turn this process on its ear? I can make an argument on the other side, although I think that I'm still of the camp that I think it's important to keep. I forget the wording. I think it's important to keep what we have now, but I can make the argument that Snaps is supposed to be kind of like what App Image is, where it's like we packaged everything that you need to run this into this bottle so that it will run every time, no matter what. And a developer only has to target that one bottle, and they don't have to worry about all the other possibilities.
Right.
I get that. But I think in practice, we've seen so many examples where that's not the case. And in some cases, it may complicate things.
Yep.
And I don't know.
I agree with the containerized application. Like, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's just Ubuntu tried to do it on their own instead of improving something that existed. And I don't like when they do that. I want them to support the community.
And another thing is like, this is something I've kind of learned as I've gotten older, is that every problem doesn't have to have the same solution.
Right.
Like in politics, people are like, I believe in the free market, or I believe in the public, like whatever it is, you can say that's the right thing in these scenarios, but then not the right thing in these others. You don't have to be committed to like, oh, this is the answer every single time. There is no other solution. And so maybe there's situations where a containerized deployment makes sense, but it doesn't. You don't have to fit it to every single situation.
Agreed.
But anyway, so now that we've probably just blown something out of proportion, next week we're going to find out that pull request.
That's all right. Make them sweat a little, I say.
I'll check on it and try to find out by the next episode.
Yeah, I'll probably hear about it before the next episode.
I'm sorry, Phoronix. I'm not showing ads because we're on the stream. It's not because I don't want to support you. Oh, they went through anyway, so don't worry. You get all the Lowe's Labor Day
You're still
ads.
getting support.
Released an update since this one even. But they're saying basically the same thing. So 6.6 has improved controller support to the point that you're able to use controllers that may have just been garbage before, which I think is why you posted this in our Discord, because you were glad to see that these things weren't going to end up in a landfill. You can actually use your Stadia controllers, which if you remember the short-lived Stadia, the game streaming service by Google, and then also the NVIDIA Shield, which is a similar controller, but these peripherals now work.
I actually didn't know there was the NVIDIA Shield controller.
Yeah,
I knew the Shield, but I didn't know the controller was a thing.
Yeah, I actually never seen this controller before either. And this has actually been since 6.5 brought the NVIDIA Shield controller driver. So that's actually nice. That was actually already in place before 6.6. But they also 6.6 added the Stadia controller, and then there's actually one other. I'll put it in the show notes. Let me click on it.
I can say one thing here that I again appreciate Linux Mint. I really do. Don't get me wrong here, but I am so glad that I moved on to a more modern distro, because I can now appreciate these Linux kernel updates now.
Oh yeah, that's
I'm actually getting them
on a bleeding edge.
Yes.
What are you using these days? What are you installing? Oh, you're using Fedora, right?
Yeah, typically I'm on Fedora, which isn't bleeding edge, but it's definitely a lot newer than Linux Mint would be, unless of course you install third party or the mainline kernel, I should say.
I'm back on Arch, but It's because of I installed Pop OS, and then before we even did the next episode for me to talk about it, I switched back to Arch but it was because of it wasn't anything wrong with Pop OS. It's because I was trying to get the VR headset to work. But I'll talk about that in our ramblings here in a minute. So they also extend XPad driver. So the XPad driver on Linux, which is what you use whenever you're using like a Xbox controller. They've extended its flexibility so that it actually works with even third party Xbox controllers and things, which I didn't know didn't work before.
I never used a third party except for that. This actually, where's that? I'm not sure which one you're looking at here, but that one that's on your screen, that GameSir, one, I have that brand controller, and it works. Like I said, that works great on Linux.
Oh yeah. This one that they've got on the screen here is the GameSir T4 Khalid controller.
Yeah, that's not the one I have.
RGB controller that's only around $40. And apparently, so if out there, if you're on kernel 6.6 and you've got some funky controller in your closet that you've never tried before, or you tried it a few years ago and it didn't work, man, pull that bad boy out.
Yeah,
and try it
fire
again.
it up, get it charged, and connect it.
It might actually work now. All right. So the last news item, most exciting, the one I'm the most excited for. This is Half-Life 3. Not really. So I don't really know. It was kind of, I just saw this video promoted to me on YouTube, and I hadn't heard anything about this.
I haven't either. This is the first time I've heard of this.
But this is the Half-Life 2 RTX and an RTX remix project. Orbifold Studios is a collective of developers who love Half-Life, formed by teams behind Half-Life 2 VR. I've seen this. Half-Life 2 remade assets, Project 17, Raising the Bar, Redux. I was checking to see if they were also behind the game I was talking about earlier, the Black Mesa, but they would have listed here. That must be another team.
Yeah.
But they're doing a Half-Life 2, and they've got this demo video.
That's just freaking cool, though.
Dude, this demo video, we'll turn the volume down. I don't know if the music will get us. Yeah, I better actually mute it because I don't know if the music will get us or not. But this shows you the comparison between the original game, which I don't remember the original game even looking that dated, and then their upgraded version, and it looks so much better.
Yeah, that lighting is just crazy.
Yeah, and then of course someone pointed out, rightfully so, that whenever they show the desk coming up, that there's a trackball. I didn't see the trackball though, so maybe they got me. I don't know. The 3D printer making a cactus. Oh, trackball keyboard on the original version before it changes.
Yeah, I see it. Yep. Nice.
That's what they were pointing out. So this will be a lot of fun. This comes out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. I love that they're doing all these remakes with the RTX because I know at first RTX to me was all hype. Yeah. But after playing several games, including Witcher with RTX, holy crap, you can't go back. Oh wow. But just the lighting is so good.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome, man. Half-Life, I don't know. Maybe it gets its roses. I was gonna say it's so underrated, but maybe it gets its roses. PC gamers love Half-Life.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the non-PC gaming world, they don't know. They don't
understand, man.
Yeah. I think it gets enough credibility from the PC gamers though that I can't say it's underrated. It's rated. It's right where it should be.
Yeah.
So I tried VR this week, and it's related to Half-Life because I only want to play Half-Life Alyx, and then I think once I get a VR headset to work long enough for me to play Half-Life Alyx, I'll return it. I'll try to beat Half-Life Alyx in 30 days. That way, I'm still within the return policy of whatever I buy.
That's a challenge.
That's actually a really good challenge. Let's see if we can buy... Dude, I will do this. Let's see if we can buy a headset and then beat Half-Life Alyx and then return the headset. I tried the Meta Quest 2, which was like the cheapest VR headset.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, the Meta Quest 2 connects to your phone, does not connect to your computer.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so it's basically like a bunch of VR phone apps, phone games, but they got a lot of games. And I only tried one game that's also on Steam. So if you have a Steam VR headset, you can use it. And I think I didn't try it on Windows, but I think on Windows the Quest would have connected to Steam VR. I'm not sure about. I didn't try it, so I don't know. I can't say for sure. But I know that people do play, because the reason I got the Meta Quest 2 is because one of my coworkers who has played Half-Life Alyx did it on his Quest 2. And but he's on Windows. And so he used some, I think he uses an application that connects your Quest 2 to Steam VR, and then you can play it through this middleman. Well, there is an application similar to that on Linux called ALVR, and I have a link to their Git in the show notes. ALVR that's exactly what it does. It runs an ALVR server on your computer, and you install an ALVR app on your Quest 2. And in order to do that, you have to put your Quest 2 in developer mode, and you have to use a side loading.
You're rooting the
yeah, you're rooting your Quest 2. And you have to use a application called SideQuest to install ALVR onto your
That's
Meta
awesome.
Quest 2. Yeah.
I love that. I love that name, SideQuest.
Yeah, SideQuest. And I did all that. I got the server running. I never could get the two to connect. On Pop OS, they were on the same versions. They saw each other. My Quest 2 would show up on Steam VR when I would launch Steam VR in Steam, and then I would launch the game, and the game never would recognize that I had a headset plugged in.
Oh man, that's
so
dang.
So then I watched YouTube videos about it, and there's lots of YouTube videos of people doing it successfully. There's even people doing it successfully
there always is.
There's even people doing it successfully on the Steam Deck. You can get a Meta Quest 2, install ALVR on your Steam Deck and on your Meta Quest, and then connect your Quest 2 to the Steam Deck and just use that. But the performance is low because the Steam Deck gets hot and all that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But I still could try that because I could try it with my Steam Deck. But I just thought, well, if I install Arch on my desktop, then I'm getting closer to what the Steam Deck is, and so I'll do that instead. And I also saw YouTube videos of people getting it to work with Arch, so I said, okay, seems like that's the way to go. Well, when I installed Arch, the ALVR version on my desktop was newer than the one that I had installed on my Quest, so I had to get those in sync with each other. I finally got them on the same version, and they wouldn't connect with each other. It was just I never got it to work. And
trying to do the dance didn't work out.
Yeah. And I was at the end of my 14-day return policy Thursday. And so I just said, you know what? If I hold on to this one more day, I can't return it. And I don't want to buy this and not play Half-Life Alyx. Whatever VR headset I get has to play Half-Life Alyx, or I don't want it. And so I went ahead and returned it. But the other idea I had, if I had more time, if Best Buy had a 30-day return policy like they did whenever I worked there, versus now they have a 14-day or 15-day. The next thing I was going to try was my Proxmox Windows server running Steam VR. And
that would have been interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? I bet that would have worked. Honestly. I bet it would have worked.
Just use Windows in headless mode just to get it working, so you can get the visual on the
the
Meta
use that as the monitor. So I didn't get much. I don't have much of a review for the Meta Quest 2, except for if you're a Linux gamer, don't go out and buy one.
Don't touch it with a 39.5-foot pole.
If you already have one, or someone's giving one away, they're about to get a lot cheaper because the Meta Quest 3 is coming out in a month or two.
Yeah.
But if you get one on the cheap, it's worth trying ALVR because there are success stories, but I was not one of those people. I couldn't get it to work. But the thing about the Steam VR is you have to put those sensors up in your room. The Meta Quest, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, but it probably is more accurate.
Oh, I'm sure. It's a lot more accurate. The controller actually does all your digits, whereas the Quest
that's
only does
far superior.
Yeah. You could flip somebody off in Half-Life Alyx. You can't do that with the Meta Quest. There was the news item I alluded to earlier where some people were looking into the code of the Steam Deck of Steam OS, and there seems like there's references to other devices. And it's really funny because they're also Final Fantasy VII references. But the belief is that it could be that it's a successor to the Steam Deck.
I hope so. That's going to be so cool.
My theory is I feel like the VR headset, Valve's Steam VR, is getting pretty long in the tooth, man. That thing's been out for a while.
It has been.
It has good specs, but it requires a wire to your computer. It requires the sensors, and it's like, the Meta Quest doesn't require any of that. And while the specs are lower, you can just slap it on and use it anywhere. You don't need any kind of setup. So yeah, I feel like if I were involved at Valve trying to pitch what our next product idea should be, it'd be a Steam VR 2.
Hey, maybe it's going to be the Steam Deck version of their VR, like the cheaper, like they learned, like, maybe we should just, make this for cost and get people on the platform.
Yeah. And then they make Half-Life 3 in VR.
Yes. Dude. Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm sold.
Yeah. That would be, dude. At this point, they can never make Half-Life 3 because it'll never live up to the hype. You know what I mean?
No, never.
But yeah, so that was my experimentation. I haven't given up, but I returned the MetaQuest. It's a meta product. I mean, I wouldn't give it too much credit. The only thing left that I want to try, I should just buy a Steam VR, but I'm worried that a new one's going to come out soon, and then I will have bought that one. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yep. If they don't blame me there. I don't know if they don't announce anything. I don't know when Valve would. Valve is so like they could just. There's no track record for them. Like, they could just say, okay, we made a new VR headset and it's available now. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's no telling. Yeah. There's no. I mean, I guess they would do something similar to what they did with the Steam Deck, which was like what, 4 months, 4 to 6 months. It wasn't like a long lead time. No. But they don't have like a conference that they always release stuff like Apple or whatever or Google. Yeah. So you can't predict it. Yeah. Anyway, so I want VR to work because I want to play Half-Life Alyx, but I don't want to buy a Steam VR and I don't know what to do. If anybody has any suggestions, write in and tell me what headset will work with. You know what? It might be my Intel Arc card. There's a Steam VR test application you can install, and it says my card is fine. It runs and it says you're all set up. You just need a headset. But it's talking about the Valve headset. I'm sure it's not talking about running ALVR on your PC and connecting to it. Right. Exactly. To a Quest. Yep. So I don't know. My only other option is to run the one Windows and a Proxmox VM and try that. Yeah. But I'd have to buy another one on another return policy. I did play a really cool game called Moss. Yeah, I was looking at this. Moss by PolyArc developer. It's a VR only game, and you play as this like spiritual being, kind of like figure that this mouse can see. And it's like a puzzle platformer with RPG elements, but you control the mouse with your left hand joystick, and then with your right hand you control this like godlike, like wisp, and you have to you'll need to use both your spirit wisp powers, and you'll need the mouse to like go through all these like platforming puzzles. Nice. And it's a cool like feeling being like in the middle of the game. Usually when you see VR games, they're like first person shooters killing a bunch of zombies and that sort of thing. That doesn't really appeal to me that much. I'm not really interested in the like fighting games or the shooting games, that sort of thing. I kind of like the aspect of VR as being like an immersion thing, but not necessarily like I actually want to act out what's happening. I just want to play, even if it's third person, like this game, you're controlling a mouse. Even though it's like third person, you still are like set in the middle of the environment, and you can look around and look underneath things, and you may have to kind of like lean over and look into this like tunnel to see that there's something blocking, and you got to move it for the mouse, and like it is really cool. And then and it's so like the mouse like sees you, but none of the other animals in the environment sees you. Interesting. And so he'll like come up and look at you and interact with you and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
It's a really unique experience for playing a game. And
I've never heard of a VR game like that.
Yeah, and it's probably the only VR game I've really played because like I said, I spent all my time trying to get it to work with my PC, and I never got it to work. And I actually bought this on the MetaQuest app. It was $20, and I own the game, and I don't own a Quest, so I can't play it. I don't think it's worth keeping the Quest just for because I don't think I'd like most of the games on the Quest. I think this was an exception, and you can get it on Steam. And like I said, if I get a Steam VR, then I could play this. So I'll just have to buy it again on Steam. But yeah, definitely if you have a VR headset, you're probably already aware of this game because there's not many VR games. So you kind of know them all. But yeah, it's really cool. Really neat concept. Really unique. And there's a second one too. There's a Moss and a Moss 2.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what about you? What have you worked on this week?
Well, I guess I can talk about my game that I got. I got Crosscode. Now, I didn't hear about this. I shouldn't say I didn't hear about this. I didn't get like an ad for this or anything like that. I actually heard someone else on another podcast talk about this, and I thought, okay, maybe it sounds fun. I don't know. Just the name was intriguing because obviously I didn't really see it because
I recognize this game. Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so I just bought it on a whim because it was on sale. I think I got it was like $11 for the deluxe edition, and it's pretty cool. It's like a retro style game. It's like a shooter RPG kind of situation. You can also do melee attacks and stuff, but you have I don't know if it's an energy gun or what exactly it is yet because I haven't played much of this game. But you got to do puzzles and all sorts of stuff like that, and I kind of really bought it because it really does resemble a older style game, like an RPG Maker type game. But I believe, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe it's made in Godot. It feels like and looks like it's made in Godot. I couldn't swear to it, but
yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it looks pretty cool. It looks like a good story driven game.
Yeah, this is one that's been advertised to me on my Steam suggestions list or whatever.
Yeah, I'm surprised I've never gotten this game advertised to me.
Yeah, I think I have a few times, or at least I've seen it maybe on the homepage or something. I do like the look of it. Real classic looking.
Yeah, it's really smooth. Like the gameplay is so smooth. Like I don't know how to describe how smooth it is. It's just I know they nailed it on that.
Yeah, but
I'm like still in the tutorial. I haven't even gotten out of the tutorial yet, so I don't really know how the game works yet.
Yeah,
fully. So
with those like low poly games like that, I've watched a few game dev videos where they talk about how, especially like with platformers, like really honing in the controls and all the exact percentages of jump speed and being able to grapple and all this. Like they those types of games, they really fine tune that to make it feel good. It seems like the feeling is like the majority of what's important for those titles.
And I mean it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So I give a Proxmox update. I did work on the Proxmox server since we talked about it in the last episode. So last episode I had just installed Proxmox. I hadn't done anything else yet.
Yeah, you didn't do anything else too, as far as I know. You might have installed Windows, maybe, but I don't
even know that I had done that yet. I think basically I just had Proxmox. So right after that episode, I installed Windows, and I gave that VM 16 cores, which is basically the whole CPU, and I gave Windows it 16 gigs of RAM, which I don't know. Maybe I should. I mean,
16's fine.
Yeah. Well, so the reason why I hesitate is because if I'm giving it 16 cores, then basically I'm saying whenever I run this VM, I only want to run this VM. So why not just give it everything? If I'm not planning on utilizing anything else during that time, why not just give it everything? But I only gave it 16 gigs. And just to test that theory, I ran another VM while I had that one running, and it didn't say you're out of cores or anything. I don't know how.
No, because it virtualizes them. So you have in theory infinite cores, but at the same time it'll super hurt your performance if you try to Like, let's say give another Windows PC or Windows VM with 16 cores.
Right. I duplicate that VM and try to run both of them at the same time.
You'll really notice a difference then, but
yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. So, because I thought it was going to give me some kind of error message saying like, "Oh, you've used up all your cores," but it runs fine. It's the trouble I have with it is actually connecting to it and using it headless, because any sort of remote desktop access I try to use with it, there's like some sort of lag or hesitation, or it works perfectly but audio doesn't transmit. So like I can't actually use this PC, I can't use this monitor, mouse, and keyboard to operate that PC. I can, but I only can poorly, you know. And so I think I've decided that I'm basically just going to pass through mouse and keyboard. I already have a monitor beside me hooked up to it it's always up. So I'm just going to pass through a mouse and keyboard and just use it like it's its own desktop. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's probably a better experience than trying to remote into it and, you know, edit video. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Remoting in is good for certain things, but yeah, especially for video editing, I'm sure it's probably crazy.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the things I went through. The video pass through was super easy. I was scared of that before I started this project. It was super, super easy. I watched
That's
a YouTube
great.
video.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'll try to go back and find that YouTube. It's been like 2 weeks though, but I can probably go back and find it just by trying to do a similar search and trying to find it. But if I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. But I followed a video of a guy that did it, and it was literally just like you just say you want to do video pass through, you select that card, and then that's it.
Right.
And so first I used Remina, REMMINA, which if I just went to Software Center and looked up RDP, it was like the main thing that came up. So I installed it and tried it, and it worked. And it actually has pretty good performance, but I could never get the audio to pass from the guest to the host. Or I could never get the audio to pass through my PC to the remote PC.
Yeah, and, right.
I tried every audio setting, every different way, couldn't get it to work. But otherwise, it had really good performance. But I can't edit the podcast and not hear it.
Yeah. No.
So I gave up on that, and you told me about Rust Desk.
Yes.
Which seems like a really good like IT solution. Like if you're trying to mimic like a VNC desktop viewer for support, this is a really good application. Not only so the way it works is you send a link to whoever you're trying to connect to, and they download a client, and then you're already running a client on your PC, and then they give you like a key to pass to each other, and then you can connect to each other. And if you do it that way, you're using like a public bounce server to connect. But you can run your own Rust server. So that's what I did. I set up a Rust VM, and it's running on a Ubuntu server. And whenever I connect to my Windows VM from my Linux desktop, it's doing it through that Ubuntu server VM as the Rust Desk bounce server. And that immediately gave me audio. I didn't have to make any changes. Audio works fine. Video works fine. Everything seems to work okay. The only thing I don't like about it is that like every time you connect, you have to go through that like passing the key process. Like you have to put in the password. Even if you say save password, in my case, for some reason, I'm generating a new password every time. So I have to do it again. And that's probably a setting or something I could set. But I think I've ultimately decided that while it's great that I know how to do that, I'm just gonna pass through USB mouse and keyboard and just use it as a desktop. I'm not gonna try to use one PC to control both. So
yeah,
it's just a way better experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. If it's not the way you want it, just
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The thing about it is that's a 1080 monitor. And so even whenever it does stream to me correctly, I have a window inside my 4K monitor. You know what I mean? So I can't, and if I stretch it out, then it's like blown up. So it's just easier just to use that monitor, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it that way.
Oh yeah, that is another hard scenario there. That stinks though. I mean, you got close.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if I used one of those HDMI tricker things, like you plug this little HDMI thing into your graphics card, so it thinks a monitor's plugged in. I wonder if I use that, if I would have more freedom to choose the resolution I want versus right now I'm using a real monitor, so it has a real resolution.
You might be right there. That could probably work.
Yeah.
You'd be able to trick it into thinking it was a 4K monitor.
Yeah, or I wonder if
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I wonder if they make those where they somehow give a response back that they're a 4K monitor. I don't know if that's how it works.
I bet they do. I bet they do.
Or I didn't think about this.
Oh boy.
I could just run an HDMI cable to the second HDMI input on my monitor.
Dude, yeah. That right there. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I should do, I guess.
Yeah.
But then I have the question of mouse and keyboard. Do I do pass through?
I would suggest I would suggest to you get a USB switch or a KVM or whatever you want to call it. I have one that I use, and it's got 4 inputs and 2 I've two outputs. Okay, that could work.
I've got one. I got one back in 2020 when I first started working from home. I thought that was going to be my solution for switching between my laptop and my desktop, and I always hook it up and then end up getting rid of it because I don't like the way it works with other things. Like I don't have a good example right now, but it seems like I was either having audio trouble when I would switch, or there was always some issue I'd have where, because my mouse and keyboard is plugged into that device and then it's plugged into my PC. I don't know. I kept ditching it.
I know what you mean, because I can't have certain things plugged into it. Like I only do the mouse and keyboard and this camera. That's it. Because if I try to do like my audio interface, you give it up. It's not going to work. You have to plug that in physically.
It was something like that.
I know what you mean.
It was something like that. The reason why I kept getting rid of it, but that could be a good solution.
No, that would be definitely a good idea.
But anyway, so that's where I'm at on the Proxmox. The next thing I want to dive into, I'm actually okay with just, I'm going to have to do that to edit this video. So I'm just going to route the USB device plugged into the host to the guest. That way I can use mouse and keyboard. And then it'll be just like sitting at my desktop before, but it'll be running Windows, and I can edit the show. And it's basically all I'll use that VM for, which has got me thinking, why don't I just use Linux to edit the video? I've been like lately, I used to use Adobe because we would do the automatic deleting of the silence. And I quit doing that because it would do some weird edits sometimes. And especially since we started using Riverside, for some reason it didn't like the way Riverside does its audio track, so I quit doing that. And so really, I'm just using it as an audio editor. I mean, as a video editor now that I could be using Kdenlive for. But the way Adobe works, you like lock yourself into a certain time period. And I tried to cancel. If I could have canceled my account, even if I had to pay a small fee to get out of it, I would have paid a little bit to get out of it. And then I would just use Kdenlive and just forget the whole Windows editing or video editing VM. But they wanted like $100 for me to cancel my.
Gee.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just keep
they get you coming and going, literally.
Yeah. I think that I just am so close to I think if I was further along, then it gets cheaper as you get closer to the end date or whatever. Yeah. So I'm stuck in it now, baby. Man. I'm an Adobe user. I might as well pretend to like it because I'm in there.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be interested to see how this plays out, because I feel like this is going to be a pretty darn solid setup.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's way overkill for any other VM I would need to make. Anything I would need to make for Home Assistant or anything, it's way overkill. Because I basically designed a hypervisor around editing video, and most people run a hypervisor on their Raspberry Pi. You know what I mean? Like it's way overkill. I'm going to use. What if the only thing I had running was like Pi-hole?
That's it. Just Pi-hole.
Yeah. So
how many cores did you get Pi-hole? 16.
I'm just piping everything out there. Nothing. So now I need to look into backing it up. I need to look into backing up my VMs.
Yeah.
Because I can already tell you that I've had this thing off for a few days, and I just turned it back on today, and I think everything's fine. But if my Windows VM is screwed up, I'm going to be pissed because it was a pain. It was a pain to get everything set up the way I like it. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
I don't want to. I don't want to lose it again. And then I made the rust. I can already see that like things accumulate. You know.
Yep.
And so, like in the situation you ran into where your drive went bad, like how do we back these things up? How do we make sure that doesn't happen again?
All right. So, do you want my honest opinion, or do you want the workaround for now?
What's your honest opinion? Give me both.
Honest
give
opinion
me the honest first.
Honest opinion. I'd set up another server and NFS a drive to that, and do your backup. Set a backup routine for weekly. You think?
Yeah,
maybe every so many days, whatever. And
for
just
our
have
usage,
it constant.
weekly is probably okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Just have it. Back up every week or whatever.
Yeah.
And do that. The quick and dirty way.
Yeah.
I would just get a USB, drive or whatever, mount it there and just have that backup so that if now it wouldn't save it from like a surge or something like that. And that would probably kill the USB also, but it would save it from the VM getting screwed up. At least it would be on a separate drive outside of the computer.
That's what I want, because if I had a power surge, or heaven forbid another liquid cooling accident where I fry a computer, the least of my worries would be getting my VMs back up. I would be like, oh, I gotta, and I probably wouldn't, because this is all like spare parts. If a lightning strike destroys this motherboard, I'll probably just be like, oh, that was fun while it lasted, but I'm not gonna try to fix it. I would just have to install Windows on a second drive on this PC so I could use Adobe. And then all the other cool stuff that I did was just icing on the cake. but I like that idea. So I should mount I have an external hard drive. It's a 2 terabyte drive, and I could mount it as a file system on the hypervisor
on Proxmox. Yep.
Within Proxmox, can I set up a backup schedule, or do I need to then run a backup server? Okay.
No. You can set up a backup schedule in Proxmox. I would suggest doing this on the command line if you can find the commands to do all this, because to do it in the GUI is a pain in the neck, because on Proxmox you have, let me see here, I'll go to mine. So you have like the top level, which is data center. Then you have your Proxmox, PVE, whatever, the node.
Yeah.
And you have to switch between those to actually set up your backup, your mount point, or whatever you want to call it, your file system and your mount point. And it's a pain in the neck. It's doable, but I just do it on the command line and just do the commands, to set that up, because it's, let me see here. I can't remember what the commands are for that, but yeah, that's what I would do personally.
Yeah,
they have a whole, what do you want to call it? Documentation on that.
Gotcha. Now that I know that it exists, I can find instructions on how to do it, and then whenever I know how to do it, we'll talk about it more. Yeah, on the show. But
let me see here. I'm like having trouble. Oh, there we go. I was trying to get back to our podcast, but I couldn't find Riverside. Anyway, yeah. So that's what I would do, because I literally just did that like an hour ago. I was.
Oh, really?
Moving. Well, we can move into the next. Just the last little thing I want to say is.
Yeah.
So I originally installed Proxmox 8, and for some reason I was having network issues with it. Like randomly, it would be like maybe like an hour or 2 hours. The network, the web interface would just die, and it'd be like, nothing. You couldn't connect to it at all. And so the system wouldn't crash. It was just the network connection. Like I hooked the monitor up to the system and I was still logged in and everything was fine.
Yeah.
But I still couldn't figure it out. I'm going to do a bug report. I got the syslog and all that stuff, and I'm going to do a bug report. But I went back to Proxmox 7.4 just to test to see if that's going to do the same thing. Now, I don't think it will, because I never had that problem on 7.4 before, but Yeah, I'm going to try that for now. So far, I have it up and it hasn't gone down this entire video, so that's good.
Yeah.
I could still log in. But the setting up the file system and all that stuff on the GUI on the web interface is just back and forth. You gotta, you can only do this part of it in the data center part, and you got to do this in the, it's doable, just a pain. It's like 4 commands if you don't if you don't do it through the GUI.
Yeah, I use that cheat sheet website to get through that.
But anyway, that was the last thing I wanted to say.
I saw in the show notes last week where you mentioned that it was dying after it was just randomly cutting off.
Yeah,
that's what you're trying to fix with this rollback.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if Proxmox 8 for some reason on my hardware that I have is just having issues, because I've only found maybe 4 or 5 instances of this online that I could see that this exact problem was happening, and nobody had a fix for it. So I want to do the bug report and then see what happens there.
Well, yeah, the next thing I want to get into is lighting in this room. I want to work on some podcast lighting, some mood lighting. Yeah, I got some lighting. I want to install too. I just gotta.
So
that's what I wanted to look into. Is right now I got this like strip from Lowe's, and it's like some like weird app you have to install to operate it, and then this light bulb over here is a Hue, which I probably keep the Philips Hues. But
yeah, they're pretty nice.
I want to make my own LED strip or a controller. I don't know if I can connect this to another controller, but yeah, I'm looking into how do I set all that stuff up on Home Assistant and set up a VM for that. So that's the next thing I'm going to start working on, is instead of having a Ring app and a Philips Hue app and all these different apps, and then what I usually do just to round them all up at one place is I connect them to the Schmishmexa. I can't say it because she's always listening.
Lady Tube.
The Lady Tubes. I put everything there just so I have it all in one app, but I want something I can control myself, and it's just more fun that way. And I'm not obviously I have all those apps. I don't mind using third-party apps, but I would rather host it myself. And one, it's more fun, and and 2, I can tailor it to the way I want to use it. Whereas I hate the interface that is on the Lady Tube app that I can't say. I hate the interface for it. It's like so cumbersome. You have to click like 3 different things.
I know.
And I never talk to it. You know what I mean? I only ever use the app. And
really? Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was the opposite. I only ever talked to it. I never used the app because I couldn't stand it.
That's the way it's intended. Yeah, that's the way it's intended. But I just feel like an idiot walking around my house talking to it, And I don't have any of the grouping set up, so I have to say everything individual,
See, I did all that. I set up all the grouping and all that stuff and whatnot.
I haven't done any of that.
I don't use it anymore. I've gotten rid of.
The way I hope that it works is the way the Arduino Internet of Things works, is where you can build a little widget interface with on-off switches. And then you program what you want those to do.
Yeah, that's basically what you can do with Home Assistant with the app.
That's exactly
what
I want.
You can have switches and stuff like that. They actually are working on a voice assistant for Home Assistant.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I'll never use it, so I don't care.
So, but if you did want to use it, supposedly it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. But I just want to, and even if I could, they make smart physical switches. Even if I just had a podcast button right by my light switch, and whenever I come in here to do the podcast, I hit that button,
and everything just moves the way you want it. Yep.
Yeah, and what I do whenever I'm not doing the podcast and I want light, I don't use overhead lights anymore. I always use this strip here and that lamp there. I just turn them to white and 100%, and that lights up the room.
Yeah, right.
And so I could set all that up on switches and just do that.
It sounds like a pretty solid idea to do. Yeah, I had that all set up at the old apartment, but this one, I just never got around to it because I don't think we're going to be here for too much longer at this point, and I don't feel like setting that all up now and
I hear you.
Moving. But at the same time, I could set it all up now, make sure I label everything.
All right. We've been rambling too long. This is the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Do all that stuff. Thanks to the new listeners that came in on the last episode. And hopefully we'll get some new ones on this one. And we will see you next week. Peace.
See ya.